Hello everyone, welcome to my Christmas in July card series. This is the first time that I'm actually doing cards. I usually do tags, but I felt like I needed to do cards this year, so here we are. I have done a lot of die cutting and prep work ahead of time just to kind of speed things up. So let's go ahead and dive into what I'm doing. So I have a Spellbinders stencil here. This is 8.5 by 11, so it's very, very large, which is awesome. And I have some, this is Simon Says Stamp. This is their original line, and it is called Spring Rain. It's just a very pale aqua, and I wanted to use that because it matched some of my cardstock. So the inks I'm going to use today match the cardstocks as best as I could find for my stash. My cardstocks that I'm using today is Woodstock ROSSO, Lessebo Bubblegum, and Colorplan Park Green. And then my gold that you'll see later in the video is brushed gold from Altenew. I purchased their kind of metallic cardstock pack. It was half off, and I was drawn to this metallic gold. It is beautiful. Die cut like a dream. It's wonderful. I'm very impressed so far. And the inks I'm using, like I said, match my cardstocks as best as I could find. And my inks are Stamp Market Cheeky and Cherry Kisses. And then, like I said, the Simon Says Stamp Spring Rain in their original color line. I think Simon Says Stamp is fading out their original line. I think they are switching over to their Positively Saturated line. I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me. But I haven't seen any new colors released in their original color line. But they do continue to release new colors for their Positively Saturated and their Rainbow Splash line. So I could be wrong, but here we are. So what I did is, while I was jibber jabbering, is I went ahead and stenciled in that snowflake, what's it called, Blizzard? Yeah, it's Spellbinders Blizzard is the name of the stencil there. I just stenciled that in very lightly with the Spring Rain ink from Simon Says Stamp, and then I decided that I wanted to have a little bit of color around the edges, so I'm just taking some more ink and some of the residual ink that was on the brush and just lightly blending in those edges just to help them stand out and give them a little more definition and interest. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to clean everything off. I clean my stencils off with rubbing alcohol. That's a trick I learned from Jennifer McGuire, and then I do clean this mat off with just my regular stamp cleaner. And here, this is where I did all of my prep work. So I mentioned these in a previous video that I've done on my channel. These are deli containers that I got from Hobby Lobby when they were half off on their spring collection. And there was 4 of them, and I think I got them for like $6 or $8 maybe, something like that. And these were very reminiscent to me of the Spellbinders craft stacks. Just significantly cheaper, and I've been very pleased with the results. The only complaint I have is that the lid doesn't necessarily, it'll pop off sometimes, and that's the only frustration I have. So what I showed you there were some of the other products that we're going to use to make our cards today. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I did do a lot of die cutting and prep work ahead of time. I have this Ornaments die set, and I think it is from Fawn, but I don't have it labeled. This was before I started to do YouTube videos that I purchased this die set, but I think it is from Fawn. But there are, pretty much any company has some sort of ornament die out there, or you can even cruise Amazon and find some there. But I think this one is from Fawn. I could be mistaken. If you have this one and can tell me what it is, by all means, tell me what it is. But I wanted there to be a gold outline and then a colored panel on the inside. And this is the closest that I could find. And I had to do a little bit of die cut surgery here. I wish I wouldn't have, especially on the small one that I'm going to layer inside. And I'll talk to you more when I get there. So here I'm just kind of separating everything out, getting everything laid out. Like I mentioned, I cut the gold from Altenew brushed gold. They're metallic cardstock. The snowflakes come from a Sizzix set, $66, $15.99, and I will list all of these things below. And the ornament, I think, like I said, is from Fawn. So I wanted there to be some color kind of inset in the middle. I think there are some nesting ornament dies out there, and these would be really, really great for that. So I did have to try to like fiddle around and kind of cover up where I did some die cut surgery. Like I said, I kind of wish I wouldn't have, particularly on the smaller one. It just kind of looked funny to me. But on the big one, I was able to kind of hide that using the sentiment. But we'll get more into that later. So for now, I am going to pop out all of the innards of my snowflakes, just using a die pick. And I cut that out of HAMMERMILL cardstock. My panels that I stenciled on originally measured 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I did trim those down by 1/4 inch by just trimming 1/8 inch off of every side. And then I'm using some Amazon foam tape to give this just a little bit of dimension. If you were going to wrap actual thread, I would suggest doing that part, to hang your ornament. I would suggest doing that part before you adhere it down to your card base, not unless you want it to be visible on the inside of your card, which if that doesn't bother you, go for it. I just used the ornament topper that came in the set, and I just snipped off the excess. So that worked out just fine for me, but you can use the actual thread or string to, hang your ornaments if you wanted to. I'm going to set all those off to the side, and now I'm going to start layering. So I have the largest, and then the medium is going to be layered on the largest, and the smallest is going to be layered on the medium size. Like I said, I just wanted there to be a little bit of pop of color in the middle of this, and this was the best way that I could accomplish that with the die set that I have. I will probably eventually purchase a nesting die of some variety that's ornaments, but for now, this is what I was using, and this is how I made it work for me. I'm just kind of trying to lay things out and figure out how I want them and how they're going to layer together. So here I've kind of given myself a rough idea on how I want things to look, and I've given myself a rough idea on the colors that I want to use. And I'm going to end up gluing all of these things down flat. So here you see me snipping off kind of the topper part on the large one. I would suggest leaving that and not doing any die surgery if you're using this particular die set. It just looked kind of funny to me. But again, if that doesn't bother you, go for it. Like I said, I'm going to glue everything down flat, and then we'll kind of get into the stamping of our sentiments here. I'm also going to glue our snowflakes down flat. I cut these out of just plain white HAMMERMILL cardstock, but if you wanted to continue with the specialty cardstock, you could cut those out of a metallic or a glitter cardstock would be very pretty. I just used some of the scraps that I had. So here we're getting into the sentiment. So I think this is from CZ Design and Simon Says Stamp, but I could be wrong. If you have this stamp set, again, let me know what it is in the comments below. I would appreciate that. Again, I purchased this when I wasn't labeling things, back when I didn't know that I was going to end up eventually doing YouTube videos. So there you have it. But I'm taking the Stamp Market Cherry Kisses and Cheeky, and even the Simon Says Stamp Spring Rain to stamp in these greetings. Now, especially the one that says "and bright" is very, very thin, and the stamp set it can get out of shape very easy, and so I did not want to use an acrylic block for this because I knew I was going to have to stamp things out multiple times, and I think my Stamp Market inks are getting kind of on the drier side. So I had kept the negative piece from a previous crafty session and use of this particular set, and I am once again just using that to nestle in the positive piece like a puzzle and use that to make stamping these multiple times a lot easier. I'm going to do it in various colors, flipping what I stamp in what color, just to give me some variety and options when I go to actually put these on my cards. Once I had my sentiments done, it was time to really start getting this card put together. So I have already glued down the ornaments down flat. Now I'm adding little tiny dots of glue because this is so fine to the ornament topper and hanger in this case, and I'm going to glue those down flat. If you wanted to add more dimension to this card, you absolutely could by popping up the ornament, popping up the sentiment, but I'm going to try to keep this a little on the flatter side, minus the dimension we get from popping up our snowflake panel. So I'm just going to continue to use my magnets. My board here is magnetic, and so I find that these magnets are very helpful to help kind of hold die cuts down while everything dries. That is a tip I actually learned from Giannis Makula. She did that, and I thought it was brilliant, and so I've been doing it ever since, and it is a really, really handy thing to have. So I'm just going to continue to glue everything down flat, and then we will be able to start gluing down our sentiments and doing final touches. I peeled the backers off of the foam tape and adhered those to their A2 sized card panels, which measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 when folded, card bases I mean, and then I'm going to glue the sentiments down flat. Y'all, I looked 5 minutes trying to figure out the orientation of these sentiments and how to best cover up this and best not clash with that. Oh, it was a mess. It was a mess. And I should have just stuck with what I had in mind first. You know, that's what they tell you. You know, when you're taking a test and they say, don't second guess yourself, don't go back and change your answer. Yeah, it's true. Don't do it. So my first instinct should have been the one I stuck with. So anyway, here I'm gluing down the sentiments flat. There is some different levels because we are layering on top of that larger ornament. If that bothers you, it didn't really bother me. You can always cut thin pieces of foam tape to layer behind there. You can always die cut because you have the coordinating dies for these sentiments, you can always die cut those out multiple times and do some selective trimming and adhering so that everything lays flat. But it's not terrible, and it's not something that I felt like I needed to fiddle with little tiny pieces to get level. Anyway, the finishing touches are some gems. I felt like, some gold sequins from my stash. I think I got these from Amazon, but anything you have in your stash that will coordinate will work. I just felt like this bottom left corner was bare, and so I felt like these sequins were a great finishing touch, and they continue the eye as far as giving you 3 objects of gold to kind of draw your eye around the card and give you a triangle of gold to visualize, which is always pleasing to the eye. So once these are on there, these cards are complete. I appreciate you spending time with me. I hope you felt inspired. This is the second video of our Christmas in July series, and I hope you will stick around for the rest of it. And then again, at the end of the year, we will have another Christmas card series, and I hope you will stick around for that. So again, I appreciate you spending time with me. I hope you felt inspired, and we'll see you next time.